servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk about life. Our guests will share their life story. We want you to success in life and business. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk about life. We're going to speak on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are going to witness business with a servant's heart. With hosts Steve, Ramona, and Ray. Inspiration, education talks. Listen to the podcast.
BrainShare Business Mentors proudly presents BrainShare.us, the ultimate business education platform, delivering the proven systems, processes, tools, and knowledge that empower you to build the business of your dreams. With 13 high-powered courses encompassing over 240 lessons accessed online on your schedule. Running a business is the hardest thing you'll ever do. We've helped thousands of business owners gain the leadership, communication, and business skills needed to build the business of their dreams. We can help you. Choose your learning path. Scuba Squad is the premier membership program for today's business leaders with access to all BrainShare material and double our money-back guarantee. BrainShare Basics, the ultimate business framework course, a hard-hitting 13-week program to lay the necessary foundation to build the business of your dreams. Or take individual courses as you need them. Every course has dozens of lessons, with video, practical exercises, precise documentation, and the opportunity for direct feedback from a BrainShare mentor. All programs have our exclusive 30-day money-back guarantee. No questions asked, don't wait. Choose your path and start today.
Welcome to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. Doing business and life with a purpose, serving others and achieving success. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. We created this show for you because we want everyone to be motivated, inspired, and educated to learn how to do business, and in this case, live life to make an impact in the world. I want you to think while you listen to my incredible guest today, how will you serve today and what impact will you make today? Not tomorrow, but today. And I want to thank my sponsor, BrainShare. BrainShare mentors you your business, helps you get away from your business so you can spend more time with family and friends, but still be profitable in a business. Business owners do not have to be working 8 hours a week. There's a way to get away from that and still run your business, still be profitable, and still grow. Well, my guest today, I'm very excited. We just met earlier, and it's funny, within 5 minutes, you can connect with somebody. It's why I say when the door opens, walk through it, because you can always walk back out if it's not a fit. This case, it's a fit. He's working with mental health. His story is incredible, and I'm blessed to have him on the show. Jeffrey, welcome to the show.
Well, Steve, I'm honored and humbled to be here, and I'm super excited to have this conversation.
I'm not usually a background guy, history, that type of thing, but in your case, you have an incredible story. Can you tell us what that story is?
Yeah, I'll give you the short version because we could talk all day.
Yeah.
I'm currently 57 years old, and age 50, I had looked back on my life. I'm from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, the heartland, flyover state. And, at 23, I started an investment company, basically selling insurance door to door, getting doors slammed, getting kicked, but I didn't really have a plan B. I just graduated college, had a finance degree, and, I got kind of talked into joining an insurance agency. So for a couple of years, I sold life insurance and then kind of escalated and got into investments and got into doing seminars. And then ultimately by age 50, so that's a long time, I had built a $600 million AUM advisory practice, had 9 staff, 7 full-time advisors, had a radio show, had a TV show, just, kind of like sitting there going, man, you know what? You did it, Jeff. And I was at the top of the mountain, although I could see other mountains out there taller. That's one of the dichotomies or challenges we have with, success is it's kind of an illusion because you never really get there. You're always pursuing, but you never get there. So, but that particular moment, I felt pretty good about myself. Now, what people didn't know is I'd been an alcoholic for 34 years and a compulsive gambler for over 20. And as an investment, OSJ branch manager, managing millions of dollars, that's something I wasn't real proud about. And I'll talk about that in a minute when I kind of tell you how I got to where I'm at. So October 2016, I was 50 years old and taking my son to play district golf. I had 3 boys. Seth was our oldest. Ian was my middle at 15 and Roman was 13 and Seth was 23. And then I was happily married to my wife, Prudence. And I got that call that every parent just dreads. And it was the call that I joined a club I didn't ask to join and one I could never leave. And that's the parent of a child that was poisoned by fentanyl. And, that's how Seth died, but that wasn't who he was. And the moment I got the call, and I write about this in my book, and it's tough not to get seduced by vulnerability because it's so easy to spend this whole show talking about all the horrible things, but I want to spend the most of it on the beautiful things that have happened. But to get there, I got to kind of go through the abyss. But yeah, so I won't say it was shocking because Seth's journey at age 23 ended. 7-year nightmare that started with Adderall prescription for attention deficit that he abused and started selling at school. And it was alcohol and smoking, marijuana, and then drunk driving, breaking and entering, cocaine, prison, heroin, fentanyl, death, all within 7 years. Which I realized pretty close. Death came into my life as a way to become better, not bitter. And took me a long time to get that mindset. But the moment that Seth died, part of me died. But then again, there was part of me that was born. I'll circle back to that in a minute. But so that whole journey of dealing with the trauma of losing a child and the guilt and the shame that goes with it as a dad on, my watch, what did I miss? What were the signs? And I gave this big heroic speech to my 2 boys the day Seth died. They were 15 and 13. So I realized that, these are called dad moments I like to talk about when I speak, is that you get a few as a dad. You don't get hundreds, you get 2 or 3 that are moments through very unfortunate circumstances like death where you have to say something impactful. I'm not going to get a do-over. I'm not going to unwind it. So I sat the boys down and I said, boys, I've got terrible news. Your brother's dead. Pretty much that pragmatic. And my wife's over here to the right. The 2 boys are here. And my middle son, who's 15, said, after about a minute or so, he said, how'd he die, Dad? Drugs? And Steve, at 15 and 13, they knew why their older brother had died. And not that it was shocking because they were part of we didn't keep a lot from them. When Seth was really struggling in the grips of his addiction, we didn't want to hide too much from the boys. I wanted them to see that these are the things that can happen if you go down these roads. And certainly I didn't plan on Seth dying, but so I said to the boys, I said, boys, we have one of 2 roads to go down. And this became a staple of the living undeterred, better, not bitter mindset. It also became a chapter in my book called 2 Roads. I said, boys, we have one of 2 roads to go down. We have one road of anger, despair, and hatred, and we'll become alcoholics and addicts ourselves. Or we have a road of inspiration and motivation, and this can be the single greatest moment in our life to make a difference in the lives of others. I'm on the second road. I ask you to join me. And I swear to you, Steve, I don't know where it came from. I didn't rehearse it. But it rolled off my tongue very poignant and authentic and genuine, and through compassion and empathy, not sympathy, pain, torture, and anger. And I'd like to say that I followed my own advice, but I didn't. For 14 months after Seth died, I stayed home and I drank every single day. My wife and I. My 2 boys are out doing these great things, and there's unbelievable stories of advocacy that these kids did that, wow. And my life was unraveling. And then finally on December 24, 2017, I noticed my wife was really doing bad with her alcoholism and grief. I just decided to stop drinking. And I just looked in the mirror. I'm sure you've had epiphany moments. I just said, I'm done. And I stopped, and I haven't had a drink since. There's more to the story, but I'll pause and let you ask me we can have some dialogue, but I don't want to ramble for an hour, but I certainly can.
I mean, what am I going to say to all that? One thing I'm going to say, I'm glad you're here. It's amazing how the mirror can be a tool. A lot of my guests that, hey, looked in the mirror one day and it made that shift and change or whatever you want to call it. I love how father you are, just to being honest with your boys, which is a great lesson for people to learn.
Mm-hmm.
It's tragedy. Death can teach us a lot. I'm learning
Mm-hmm.
that from a lot of my guests. What did death teach you besides the things you just mentioned?
Taught me it's the greatest teacher.
Mm.
It's a better teacher than living, because you can develop such a reverence and a awe and respect for death as you can with living. And instead of fearing death as the end, I don't know what happens when I die, but I can't control that. I can certainly control what I do here. So my mind is, I want to create heaven on earth now while I'm here, and do the best that I can, as a servant of doing good to other people, whatever capacity that means. And everyone has their own definitions, and that's up to you to decide. But I certainly can control what I do every day, and what goes in my mouth and what comes out of my mouth, and what goes in my mind and comes out of my mind. And so, but back to my story, to kind of put a bow tie on where it led to today, Steve, was, I quit drinking really to help my wife, because I noticed Prudence was really struggling. And I stopped on 12/24/17, so about 14 months after Seth died. And unfortunately, it didn't help her any. On June 29th of 2021, one day after my youngest boy turned 18, which is a big day for an adolescent, my wife died of alcoholism at the age of 46. She Grief is what killed her.
Yep.
Alcohol was a tool, and boy, was I mad.
You have a right to be. You have a right to be mad. I mean, you just
Yeah.
lost a son, you lost your wife, but you didn't keep going in that direction, did you?
No, and at a time when I really had everything, I'd achieved financial success, I achieved status and whatever I thought was important to me, and when that was taken away from me, I realized how quickly that I needed to just breathe every day and just to be so grateful and feel grounded to the earth, and just love everything from trees to plants to cats to fish to my dad, who's still alive, who's 92, and just pinch myself how grateful I am. And I've got two of my three boys still here, Steve, and I know moms and dads that lost their only child, and man, my heart goes out to them. I really, 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 I really can feel that pain as a parent. But I'm in a really good place with the projects and the initiatives I'm working on right now.
I don't have children, but I can feel it, because we've all lost, whether it's a dog, a parent,
Yeah.
And children's a much different level. My wife has 4 kids, and if something ever happened, I can't even imagine. But what you're doing with it, these projects, let's talk about that, because that's the blessing. You said earlier, I was an investment guy, very successful, but you can't take success to the grave. I hate to be very flippant, but very open about that. But you can't.
Right.
I'm a multi-billionaire.
Right.
Nothing's left. Tell us more about these projects that's building your legacy.
Yeah, so I started a podcast, and this was while my wife was alive, after my son died, and it's called the Living Undeterred podcast. And I just met you, and I even talked about some people you just randomly threw out, and I've already had one of them on my show. And that was going great for about 3 years. I was really enjoying it. And I wrote a book called This One's For You, An Inspirational Journey Through Addiction, Death, and Meaning. And it's a story I wrote again after Seth died, but before my wife did. And, during all this whole journey I was on, I just felt very antsy. Like I know I do enough, Steve, but it's like that self-critic telling me, hey, Jeff, you can't slow down. You got to keep going, so I decided to go buy an RV. I'd never been in an RV in my entire life. So I bought a 34-foot, fully loaded, brand new Hurricane Thor, got in the RV, drove around the United States for 95 days, 20,000 miles with my 2 boys. And we met with 35 nonprofits in 38 states. And we just hugged and cried and shared stories and allowed people to talk about being vulnerable. And I set off to raise $1 million and give it to charity. And I raised $30,000 maybe tops. And I spent over 200 of my own money, 200,000, counting the RV. And but the boys would tell me all the time, when I'd be sitting at the campfire crying about not being able to get any corporate help, and donations at my talks were getting $100 and maybe a few t-shirts. And I just looked at my boys and I said, this is what living undeterred is all about, guys. This is what purpose becomes passion when it gets personal. Purpose becomes passion when it gets personal. Those are my marching orders. And this is personal for me. So there's my passion. That's my purpose. And, I will die on this hill. I will die. My last breath will be some type of advocacy for youth mental wellness. And I've already committed to that. So I don't have an end game. There's no out for me. I burn the bridges. I burn the boats. It's like, but this is what I want to do. This is what I like to do. I like to help kids improve their lives. And, with Gen Z being the largest generation in human history, a third of the world's population, and they're the most anxious, lost, depressed humans ever. Doesn't have to be this way. My son and my wife right here, they don't have to die for nothing. And so I did the next best thing is someone who can't stop moving. And I did a startup company. I know nothing about startups. I hired a company in DC to build it. I've spent a lot of money, and anybody who's done a startup knows an app startup is a lot of money. And I just feel compelled to take the phone, which is their worst enemy, and make it their best friend. And that best friend has a name. The name is Brightn. And we want to brighten young minds and brighten young lives. And Steve, where the name comes from is when Seth died, 3 weeks after he died, his daughter was born.
Wow.
I have a 7-year-old granddaughter, and her name is Brightn. And so it's like, wow, it's like, how in the hell can I let her down?
There's your angel. That's your angel.
But I'm just so grateful to have these conversations with people and whatever you're struggling with. It's like, when my wife died 2.5 years ago, my mom died 3 months later, the day after we put our 16-year-old cat down. It's like, I said, death, come on, please, just give me a weekend. Give me some time to catch my breath. But that Christmas, I went in my closet and I sat down and opened my safe and took my gun out. And I was ready. I'd never had suicidal ideation even after all this. And just that moment, it happened so fast. And so people that are struggling, I know how you feel. I've been there. I got down to 3 seconds, Steve, with that gun. This was just 2 years ago and 2.5. And I didn't do it. And holy cow, man, I'm happy I didn't. For those people that have survived suicide attempts and suicidal ideation, there is a better day ahead. And for those of you that aren't there and haven't had those thoughts, and when you do, just think about what I just told you. I'm so happy. All the beautiful things that have happened in my life and the people I met and the love and the hope and inspiration and empathy and courage and strength, it's like overflowing. It's like, man, I'm so happy I didn't do it. But I was ready. I didn't want to die. I just didn't want to live. Yeah. Big difference. Big difference. I miss my son. I miss my wife, but they carry me. Someone asked me the other day, what are you grateful for? And I said, death. I said, I'm grateful for death.
Yeah.
Thank you, death, for giving me this opportunity to do what I do. And I won't stop.
Got a story of somebody you've helped with your story?
What's that, Steve?
You've got a story, people you've talked to. Maybe it's during this incredible, I call it a vacation, even though it was going to be business for you. What a great trip for your two boys. But do you have a story where you shared your story or talked to somebody and they just said, yep, I'm not going to commit suicide, or I'm going to stop drinking or drugs?
I'll tell you what, I'll be quick with this. I was in Utah giving my keynote, giving my talk. There's probably 100 people there. I was sponsored by a group that deals with veterans and suicide. And when I was done, a gentleman came up to me. Boy, I could tell I touched a nerve. And he proceeded to tell me, and I won't tell you the whole story, proceeded to tell me that his ex-wife had, after a contentious divorce, this is really hard to say, but his ex-wife had murdered their 2 young children, and she killed herself. And him and his brother came across the scene. And man, I froze. I'm like, I'm just so in awe of this guy's strength. I can't remember his name. I wanted to reach out to him, but he didn't get back with me, and I respect that. because
Mhm.
not everybody wants to go down this path as aggressively as I do. I like to fight the demons, you know. I get some inspiration from that when I win. And he gave me so much hope, and I don't think he understands. He remarried now, and he talks about it a little bit. But the fact that I shared my story as a man, being vulnerable, and he came to me and we hugged, and that's one story I'll never forget. And I will tell people, as a cautionary story and as a cautionary tale in this, it's called grief comparison. I think sometimes we sit around saying, well, geez, you know, I can't compare with what Jeff went through, but I was sexually molested as a 7-year-old, let's say, but I didn't have, you know, lose half my family. Maybe I shouldn't feel as bad as Jeff. Maybe my suicidal ideation isn't justifiable. I'm like, you know what? That's one of the risks I take when I tell my story is I know in a group of 100 people, there's maybe 1 or 2 in the room that can actually have been through something worse than me. It doesn't matter if it doesn't matter if you have no kids and you're not married and your cat was hit by a car. That to you is the worst thing possible. And so, you know, try not to get into this comparison of grief. It can be very toxic. And you know, I learned that
Yeah.
when I share and people tell me, you know, Steve Grant's a friend of mine. Steve, his only 2 sons, Chris and Kelly, died 5 years apart from heroin overdoses. He's the first one I met on this journey when Seth died. So as I was sitting around feeling sorry for myself, I met Steve. Steve has a book, Don't Forget Me. Don't Forget About Me, I think is his book. He has a Chris and Kelly Hope Foundation. They raise millions and millions of dollars. I met him early in my journey. Now, I want to be that Steve Grant to somebody. You know, there's 850 Americans that die every single day in the United States from the deaths of despair, alcohol, suicide, and overdose. Well, call me.
Yeah.
Reach out to me. I bet I've been there twice. I know what it's like.
Yeah.
You know.
It's a great point about the comparison of grief. Either, you know, my grief is not as big as yours, you know, so what? Or, you know, mine's much bigger than yours. You know, I lost, you know, 5 family members and my mom and grand, you know, I lost 20 people in my family in a year.
Yeah.
That's not the point of trauma and grief. It's everybody has it. And you know what you just taught me? And audience, I want you to pick this up. If an hour later, something happens where they cut off my internet and I don't have internet for 2 hours, what the frickin' do? That can be fixed. Death cannot be fixed. It's gone. I mean, to listen to you, you've got me so fired up right now. I'm definitely going to bring you back. I'd love to talk to you more about this. Veterans, you mentioned. I want to finish with this. It's a what's the word I want to use? I'm compassionate about it, but it's a foundation for me because I have a number of veterans that have been on my show and told me stories. What is your impact with veterans? What you'd like to do?
Great question. You know, I think for the veterans, like I'm not a vet. I don't have PTSD. At least I've never been really diagnosed with everything. I don't believe in diagnosis and labels anyway. I'm just Jeff Johnston. I have what I have and that's it. I don't take any meds or anything. I don't see a therapist, but I'm fairly pragmatic, I guess, from that regards. But yeah, for veterans, you know, I think for them, it's community. It's feeling listened to, feeling cared about, feeling that they're what they witnessed and what they had to go through, to let them know that we're proud of them, that, you know, you and I don't have this opportunity to have a podcast like this without them, with the sacrifices, the ones that didn't make it back, the brothers and sisters and moms and dads that are lost in all the wars and all, not just our veterans, but, you know, worldwide veterans in all wars, and police officers and people in the emergency services. And, you know, I think we need to have a better support system for these people. And even though the Brightn app, our app is geared towards youth mental wellness, you know, you get one kid to change their, you know, their approach towards mental wellness and the positive ripple impact on that in that one family. Maybe the dad is struggling, but the kid turns out to be better. That may improve the mood of the dad. You know, now he doesn't feel like his PTSD is being projected on his child. And so if we can obviously help the parents as well with what they're dealing with, but if we can empower that generation of kids, I think the ripple impact, you know, Generation Alpha is right behind Generation Z. And that's the next kids coming up, and they're, with TikTok and Instagram, all these challenges out there. So it's like, yeah, for veterans, they are a subset of people that I think we owe them, a society owes them a better systems and processes and approaches to mental wellness. I'm convinced of that. And where that can fit into the Brightn app, I don't know. I mean, we just launched in September. We're in 10 countries. I had a guy at an investor pitch, like this, Steve, asked me how many users I had on the app. And I said 0, adamantly. We have thrivers.
I love
that word user has a little problem in my mind.
Yeah.
User has a negative connotation. Our app is based on empowerment. So we don't have users. We have thrivers.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're running out of time here, Jeff, but what I love in audience, I want to get from this, and there's much more, but just get you to talk to somebody. That's part of your goal, much more. But if 4 people on this show, 1 person or 100 people listen to this and go, I need to talk to somebody, me and you are going to be so super happy. And then we can hopefully pay it forward and they can talk to people. So I love what you're doing.
Send me an email, jeff@brightnapp.com. It's BRIGHTNAPP. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. Our marketing department's on TikTok, every place. I will talk to anyone, anywhere. I'm not a clinical psychologist, but I'm credible because I have the life experiences. And sometimes talking to that clinician is great, but sometimes you just want to talk to some peer-to-peer that's in the trenches with you. And I don't have certifications behind me on the wall. I've got pictures of my family.
You are a mental health connector, whether they talk to you or
right.
Where's a resource that's more powerful. Nothing against psychiatry, but that may be the stepping stone to the mental health psychiatrists, doctors, and that do that. Because a lot of time, you're right, there's a gap. I want to thank everybody for listening, and I love to say this now, especially on this show, what Jeff just talked about. I think we're friends now. I can call him Jeff, not Jeffrey anymore.
No, that's good.
Use the podcast, and he's a host as well. You can go forwards and backwards. There's that little thing. Click it. Get to 10 minutes and go, I want to listen to that again. Or what did he say? And if it's something that resonates with you, comment on YouTube channel, which he'll be on, or my podcast which he comes on later. And I'll reach out to him because I am now Team Jeff. He doesn't really know, but there's a lot of notes I wrote here that I want to help them. If you want to help them as well, move forward with Brightn or a nonprofit or things like that, let's do that. Real quick, don't forget about my TV show, Together We Serve. It's 2 p.m. Pacific and 5 p.m. Eastern on Fridays. Jeff doesn't know it yet, but I'm going to ask him to be a guest because there's an hour of talk we can have.
Awesome. I'd love it.
Yeah, that would be great. And then a podcast swag, doing business with a servant's heart. My favorite swag on a hat and a t-shirt is who are you serving today with a question mark. You walk around wearing that and people start seeing that, you're going to be doing what Jeff does. And maybe it's a smaller impact. A 1% impact is just as good as 100% impact because you're making an impact.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah, go, Jeff.
The first person you have to serve is yourself.
Amen.
That's the first person you have to serve. If I am not here, I'm no good to my 2 boys and my dad and my brothers and my team. So selfishly, take care of yourself first. When that oxygen tank comes down on the plane, they tell you, Steve, you put it on yourself first. So I'm telling every mental health advocate out there, it's great to be a servant. It's great to give, and have purpose and meaning, but don't do it at the expense of your own mental wellness.
It's a great way to end the show. If you resonate with this show, share it with others. Let's make an impact in not hundreds, but millions of people. And we'll see you all in the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart.